Deconverted tweets here. Okay, so I don't know why I started following S.J. Thompson on Twitter again. So now I have more to complain about. Maybe I did this just to punish myself or something. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna read some tweets, or rather, I'm gonna read tweets and complain about the answers and stuff, and I guess that will be a thing. Welcome to tonight's Healthy Faith Chat, where we ask a series of questions. We're going to be focusing on the tough questions that atheists ask Christians. Question 1: if God is all loving, why is there evil in the world? Well, that's a good question. I don't know that I would ask it exactly like that, but fair enough. If the God being posited is an all-loving God and all-powerful God, because those two are kind of intertwined to make this an actual dilemma. If you have a God that loves but doesn't have all the power that it could, then an answer might be that, well, it's just God lacks the power to do this or that or what have you. Maybe God used up all his powers in the creation of the universe or the cosmos or the planet or what have you. So it loves, but it can't do anything more. It doesn't have any more oomph, perhaps. So it's only really a true dilemma when you posit the two things together, an all-loving and an all-powerful deity. It doesn't have to be a deity. It could be a person as well. Because, you take a look at something from fiction, say Superman, and you go, okay, well, here you have this extraordinarily powerful being that can basically do anything. It can't do everything, but it can do a lot of things. It can be a lot of, he moves very fast, so he can be almost multiple places at the same time, although there's limits to that because sonic booms and things like that. So Superman has to kind of curtail his power so that he doesn't crush buildings and destroy streets and people's lives while trying to save them. He doesn't have the power to stop somebody's acceleration, even though we see him catch people and they're fine all the time. That's not how it would work. You'd have to decelerate them to save them. But at any rate, uh, if Superman just had all his powers and did nothing with them, one would have to question why. Why are you just sitting back and not doing something with your powers? Why aren't you helping people? You could be doing that and you're not. And if Superman claimed to care about people but did nothing with his powers, it would be a conflict uh, from from our perspective. It wouldn't make sense. So I've seen this question asked many, or answered rather, in many different ways by different apologists and theists. Sometimes the whole question is deflected by, well, evil doesn't exist under your system, so it doesn't even matter, blah, or evil proves God, or something like that, which is not an answer. It's a non-answer and doesn't really address the question. So I liked Pleasure of Doubt responds to this in that their way of framing this question is unnecessary suffering. In fact, I don't think that any suffering would be necessary at all. But it is in the conditions of the universe that we have, the rules that we find ourselves under, gravity and physics and so on, uh, require suffering to exist, so that that when your body is getting hurt and you can do something about it. Some creatures have this to greater degrees than others. Uh, Insects might just have a sense of being hurt or danger or what have you more than actual pain. It just depends on the level of complexity of their brain. But obviously, the more complex you get, the more advanced the interaction becomes, and the creatures that can detect pain can avoid it, whereas those that can't, and they're so they're likely to get chomped on and eaten, or otherwise hurt by predators. So a fish that gets it's part of it bitten off and can sense that and get away from that harm might survive, whereas a fish that didn't feel it wouldn't go away because it didn't hurt it. So it's nothing. It's like, oh, I got bit. Whatever. Who cares? It doesn't make me worried. And then it gets eaten. But you don't have to have the rules itself is something that you're positing is created by the creator, because it's not just the creator makes life on the planet and then didn't make the planet and didn't make the rules of the planet or the rules of the universe. The creator supposedly made all of those things. So you're setting up a system where you can set up all the rules of the game and then you set up the game. So you can look at it like a DM in a Dungeons and Dragons, where you can set up the game so it's completely unfair for the players, and they're probably not going to have a good time of it. It's just they're killed immediately, and that's no fun, and nobody gets to really play. And you say, well, tough luck to you, or you could set it up super peaceful and nothing happens, and there might be drama of some sort that you can make, but it would be very difficult without something to do. But that's only, again, because you can't create the universe beyond the game itself. You can't create the human need for entertainment or drama. The things that we desire, you have as a DM, you don't have control of that. But if your players agreed to pretend that that their characters are them and they're really good at role playing, and their characters don't care that there's no drama, then from that perspective, it should be an enjoyable game, even though nobody's fighting anything and they're just walking around talking to people or whatever. So another answer I've seen is that it's necessary in the terms of that you couldn't know what goodness is without evil, or you couldn't know what it is to have pleasure without pain. And I just don't see that as true. Again, if you have all the power to create the rules, then you also have power to create the rules, which means you can have people or creatures or whatever it is you decide to allow to exist or make, or however you want to frame that, be able to experience or not experience X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, without experiencing the opposite. There isn't a thing that says, oh, I can't do that, because you have all the power there is. Then, of course, we get to the typical free will argument. But this is kind of a circular answer that, well, the world has evil because of free will. So, well, that only matters under your theology of positing a particular God under a particular theological view. That, under the Christian view, evil exists because Adam and Eve made the wrong decision, and even if you put that aside, you as an agent will eventually do something that's wrong under God's eyes, and depending on how harsh your theology is, everything you do is not good enough. So you have to have Jesus in your life to forgive you, because otherwise you're screwed. Just by mere existence, because you have original sin, or, well, you're pure until a certain age, or whatever. But again, if you're answering with free will, you've missed the question. The question is irrelevant in regards to free will because God still set up the entire system itself. So it knew that free will would allow people to make a choice that it doesn't want them to make, and that it will have to allow then untold suffering to occur because people chose not to obey it, and obeying it is the best thing to do, and for whatever reason they didn't obey it. Why? Because they had the choice to obey it or not obey it? Okay. But then they were tempted, and maybe they didn't understand enough. Maybe you didn't instruct them well enough. Maybe a lot of things, but the thing is, it's a just so story. The story of Adam and Eve isn't really something that actually occurred. It's something to explain in simple terms creation, and it reflects and mimics other creation stories, uh, and is also unique from some of them as well. But all the creation stories try to explain why things are just so, why things are the way that we experience. So you actually go in reverse when you write that story. You go, okay, well, there's pain and suffering. Well, why? Well, obviously, it's humans' fault because it can't be God's fault. We can't make it God's fault because we don't want a God that does that. But other religions made their God so that it is God's fault. It just depends on what God you believe and what theology you follow. So the whole free will answer is a complete non sequitur, complete irrelevancy. It's not addressing the actual question. It's not answering why God set up the system in such a way that free will would then cause this amount of suffering. Why does God care so much that Eve ate the fruit? Who cares? Why is that the breaking point? Oh, you didn't listen to me. Well, so why does that matter? What, you're saying you have a choice to do this or to do that, but you're saying one of them is a consequence so massive that not only you will suffer, but everything else will suffer too. All the insects, all the plants, all the animals. I don't know how much plants suffer, but okay, that all of these things will be because you didn't do the thing that I told you to do. Did Adam and Eve really understand the ramifications of that choice? Um, Especially if they don't have the knowledge of good and evil, it doesn't pan out as far as an answer. Even if you ignore Adam and Eve and you go, okay, well, in my own life, did I know that X was wrong at the time I did it? And is that something that is so awful that it deserves that other people, other places will suffer because why? Because we didn't obey God? Well, okay, why? Why is that the rule system? See, that's what's missing here is why were the rules constructed in this way in the first place? Because they could have been constructed in a different way. So the problem of evil is not answered by free will. It just misses the point in full. What I then, this is amazing to see, that one response by Diarchy Vakon is that it doesn't explain the suffering of innocent children. Uh, what is known as the Daviskian argument. You have to take it further. And then SJ says, I think that argument gives us evidence for demonic forces in the world. Oh my goodness. So rather than answering the question at all, you've now added another level of complexity to the problems at hand. So, well, why are there demons? And why are they allowed to do evil? Why would God even allow that to be a thing in the first place? Why would that system be allowed to exist at all? Because you're adding now more evil, or permitting more evil to exist. Now, demons supposedly, depends on your theology, but are fallen angels or angels that rebelled against God, because I guess angels can do that. Although if God's so awesome and wonderful, why would any angel rebel against God? But whatever. And even though supposedly they know the ending, they know they're going to lose, they're going to keep fighting against God anyways. Why? That doesn't make sense. You know it's God. You can't win. You can't beat it. You can't fight it. So what's your goal? Well, to take down as many humans as possible. Okay, so the suffering of the child might cause that person to stop believing in God or be a Christian, and then they have to go to hell. So God permitted the suffering, the needless suffering of the child, and permits the person to go to hell because free will. Yeah, that doesn't explain anything. So the demonic forces just add more problems to the problem of evil, and does nothing to solve anything. And the response to that is, so what to end? Do we have evidence of God's perfect plan in light of that? And yeah, exactly. You just made the problem worse to posit demons. And of course, positing demon forces, then you could step back from the religion and say, okay, fine, there's a good God and a bad God, and the bad God's trying to trick people away from the good God. So then how do you know that you have the good God? There'd be no way to know that. You'd have to just assert that you have the good God and not the bad God, because the good God has to obey the rules and the bad God doesn't have to. So the bad God can cheat, whereas the good God can't cheat. So in that circumstance, it's more likely that you've actually picked the wrong God to support. And, if you read the Bible, like, yeah, but it doesn't seem like God's being very nice here. And yet you assert that it is a good God. So you've somehow been tricked by the demonic forces to believe that God's the real God. And you're like, no. It even says in the Bible that's going to be an argument that's used against us, of course, because the demonic forces were really clever. It's like, okay, fine, but then there's still a God. It's like, well, now you don't even know that, because maybe the demonic forces, the evil God, is all that exists, and it's just messing with you to believe in some other God. You don't know. You couldn't know. Then another answer, which of course goes into circular reasoning, is to say, well, but Jesus negates all that, and that's really... So the plan was to set everything up in such a way that humans would have to fail the test, because that's what it is at this point, in order for God then to send a piece and or himself, a piece of himself, or just him, I don't know, whatever, an avatar of God, however you want to look at Jesus, send Jesus to die, even though that's not that bad of a thing, and I don't know how God can die, but okay, whatever, in order to fix everything. So the whole system was set up so that God could fix the system. I don't know, that just seems like a bit much. Just say, you know what, Eve? I understand. You're forgiven. You know what, Adam? I understand. You're forgiven. Let's try again. But see, then that doesn't explain why we have evil in this day and age. See, that's why the story is written retroactively. It's written to explain what's going on, not an actual story that actually occurred. Let's see. Del Porter says, let's ask a question with a question, because of course we don't want to answer the question. That's I think it's interesting that he's never heard an unbeliever posit the question, is there so much good, how can there be a devil? I don't believe in a devil, so why would I posit that? That's incoherent. And the devil is another assertion, which just again adds to the problem of evil. It doesn't you're just going off on some tangent. You're not even dealing with the question because you're saying, well, what about ism? You're doing the what about that? Oh, well, what? But you need to ask this question because I've never heard it be. So what? It has nothing to do with anything. And another way to respond to this I've seen is like, well, the people that do evil, they don't know. They think they're doing good. Yeah, the bad guys usually don't think that they're the bad guys. But that doesn't really answer the question. You know, the hot lava that's coming towards your island to wipe everybody out. Well, that's because Hitler is bad. Like what? Huh? What's that got to do with anything? And of course, you don't really answer a lot more questions. There's a lot more other questions within this question. And it's like, well, people existed during the time of Jesus that were nowhere near Jerusalem, nowhere near anywhere where they would have heard anything about Jesus. So they're all suffering and they don't even know why, supposedly, because God only revealed itself to this select small group of people and not them, right? Well, they're under other things. Where in the Bible? How the Bible doesn't even address the rest of the world. It's focused on the little small bit of world that it's focused on. It's not focused on the rest of the world because it's written from the tribe's point of view. It's a combination of story of the Jewish people and their folklore and their myths and ideas. And some of the stories you can gain some insights from, might be useful on their own. But that's, again, not answering the question that's being posited. That's why there was a beep in the background. And so, okay. Here's another answer. Evil exists because Adam and Eve failed to do which is good, which is obey God. Right. So, but why did God set up that system? You didn't really answer the question. You said, well, you know, they did the thing that God didn't want them to do. You know, there was a light switch and it was on, and you know, they just have to leave it on. If they turn it off, that's it. Okay, but why did you put the light switch there? Well, I put the light switch there so they'd have a choice. Okay, why? Because they need a choice. Why do they need a choice? Reasons. Well, what are your reasons to give them a choice? Well, it's better that they have a choice than they don't have a choice. Well, why? Well, you know, whatever other reasons. Okay, great. Why make it a choice that if they choose the wrong thing, that the consequence is so insanely ginormous that they screw themselves and all of the rest of humanity and all other living creatures and animals and plants and insects. Again, I'm throwing plants in there, even though they I don't know if plants experience pain on any level. Probably not, but whatever. All the living things, because you flip the switch. Okay, give them a choice that they can make and see the consequence of in a very low resolution. That it's like, oh, I flipped off that switch. Oh, okay, it made the room dark. I see. Okay, I'd rather have it be light. Let me flip it back on. Actually teach them what the consequence is of not obeying, since that's apparently what God wants people to do, is obey. So why give them free will if you just want them to obey? You want slaves, just make them slaves. Well, I want you to give up your free will to me because then that counts more. Okay, but again, show them the consequence in little ways of not obeying so they understand it. Do a better system than you've done. But again, the reason why the story is constructed this way is to try to explain why things are bad today. And the posit is, I want to have a God that is not responsible for the evil. So I'm going to make this story that makes it seem like it's humans' fault. But of course, the God made the earth and the rules of the earth and the people of the earth and the rule that said, don't do this thing or else. So you didn't ever answer the question of why did God make it that way instead of a way that would have not caused all the suffering in the first place, but could have still permitted free will choices. It's like you're basically saying God had no choice but to make it this way, which means God's not that powerful or not that loving or a combination thereof. So, okay, so, and here again, free will. The world is sinful. That doesn't address anything. And sin. Here we go. I'm just now skipping through and looking at this. People have choice to do right and wrong, but that doesn't explain the needless suffering of animals and other living creatures. You know, again, the volcano going off and wiping out the island. I don't know why I go to volcanoes. That's just what pops in my brain. But it doesn't answer that. It's like, oh, I committed a sin. Oh, volcano! Oh my God! Why? Why that in response to what? I told a lie? Oh my goodness, you know. It reminds me of the story I read. Oh man, I'd have to find it to read it verbatim, so I'm just going to do it from memory there, where the kid is told to pick up his toys, and he throws a tantrum, and his mom says, oh, what a fuss over just a little thing. Now settle down and clean it up. And so the kid's like, okay. And he does. And then it's raining outside, and the kid looks and is like, well, why does it rain? And his mom says, well, because, you know, God has made the world in this certain way and whatnot. And the kid's like, wow, what a fuss over just a little thing. And it's just it's a brilliant outline of that God's essentially throwing a big temper tantrum because people didn't do what he wanted them to do. But yeah, I'd have to find that exact thing. Let's see. And then, of course, we got the answer that I said we would get, which is that you can only talk about evil if there's a good. So without a God, there isn't good. So you don't need an answer. So the question basically proves God, which completely ignores the question in full. It doesn't address the question at all. It's just, hey, look at that, run away. That's what that answer is. Yeah, there's no evil in the world. Man is evil. Wow, why did God create man evil then? It doesn't. It's not coherent. Free will means you can choose a life of evil, but it doesn't matter. If you choose good, evil could still befall you. It even says that in the Bible. Good and evil will fall upon you, on the righteous and the unrighteous. So it doesn't matter, even if you do good, and it doesn't matter how much good you do, because none of that really matters, because there's no good enough for God, because you sinned at some point hypothetically, and you'll still need Jesus in your life because that's the only way to be good, period. So it's completely a tangent. More free will answers. Okay, so here's another way to think about the free will choice. I have the ability, if I have the ability to make a universe or make the rules at any rate, and I say, okay, well, you have the free will to choose to hit somebody, but when you hit them, what happens is your hand, although it hits their face, only affects you and your face, so you feel the full force of your punch, not them. So you're the only one that you're hurting by doing that. Thus, you're not going to keep trying to punch people because you know it's just going to hurt you. If you try to shoot them, you're the one that winds up getting shot. You still have the ability to choose to do stupid stuff, but you can't hurt anyone. You only hurt yourself by doing those things. But you still have the free will to do those things if you want to. It's just that the consequence is immediate and instant and shows you that doing that is a bad idea. That's a better world. You still have free choice. I don't know why free choice is such a big commodity in the first place. But regardless, if you want free choice, there's plenty of ways to give that if you have all the power that there is. And if you care about people, you don't allow the choices to be such that they cause harm. So there's another thing. I remember Hitchens talking about this once. Um, there was a story that was, and of course, the story happens more often than it should, but it was a story in the news at the time, or been recently in the news, where this girl had been found in the basement of and found pregnant, and her dad had kept her in the basement for however many years, raping her, and even she had a baby, his baby, in the basement. He kept them all there and wouldn't let them out. And until somebody discovered it, it wasn't known. So you have the idea of a being that can see everything and knows everything and has the power to do something about that, and says, well, I can't do anything about that because free will. But if you put a person in that place and said, okay, Joe Schmo, you know about what's going on. You just learned that this guy is raping his daughter in the basement. What do? You call, well, least you could do is call the police at the very least. But what if I empower you to stop it? I give you weapons or an armor or what have you, so that you can, bust in there and save the day. But you do nothing. You go, oh well, I mean, it's free will, so I have to let the suffering happen because it's free will, right? No, we actively would stop the bad thing from happening. We would actively try to prevent the evil from occurring. So the guy or gal with the gun, we tackle that person down to the ground so that they cannot use that gun. We threaten other nations with nuclear bombs so that they don't use their nuclear bombs. That's what we do. We are active in the role of preventing and negating suffering at every single level. But your God apparently doesn't do anything because free will. Oh, I've got a lot of things in chat that I didn't pay attention to. Okay, so I think I read a good amount here because there's so much more on this tweet that I could keep going. But let me address chat for a bit. So if you don't like that part of the live hangouts, then goodbye. See you next time. But now I'm going to address some chat stuff. Love and evil aren't mutually exclusive traits. I don't know about that, but it doesn't really answer the question. Johnny, hey, I think they can be. Let's see, evil exists and love exists. One could be evil and love, but okay. Suffering can be necessary to build character. Bullshit. Only under the situation that we have. Again, the system that is set up so that your character must be built because of suffering. And there's plenty of other ways to build your character that don't require suffering. And what is it about this mortal coil that I could learn that I couldn't possibly also learn in the immortal coil, where I won't have a physical body that can get damaged? Why do I have to learn this stuff here? Why can't I learn it there? Why is it that suffering is something that builds character? Why not make it something else? Why not make it pleasure? You have the ability to control the rules. Lavender Lady, hey kids! Hi, Lavender Lady. Tiger Dragon, yo! Also, evil deeds occur for not evil intention. People could typically do these deeds. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you can do something that you think is going to be good, and it turns out not good, or you could do something good for an evil, sinister purpose. Honestly, if you're doing good, and it results in good, I don't really care why you did it. Maybe you did do it for a selfish reason or whatever. But I'd rather people do. People do good for good reasons. But if people are doing good for bad reasons, at least they're still doing good. But none of that addresses the problem at hand, which is the question of why is there suffering? Why is there evil if God is good and all powerful? Which is that part was left out of the question, which is why is there evil in the world if God loves us? And so I say, well, it's an easy answer. God's not all powerful, so there you go. But I'm including the second step there because I think that the question without it is less powerful. Damn, can't hear. BRB, Tiger. Can't hear me. Okay. Define unnecessary. Unnecessary. Well, I mean, none of the things that we go through are necessary. Again, if you have control over the entire game that you're constructing, the entire universe, all the physics, everything that goes into it. It's a little bit beyond our ability to imagine just a bit maybe because we're kind of constrained to the physics that we are familiar with. But if we can imagine, I can set up the rules however I want. That means I can make it be as awesome as possible. So there's a show called Rick and Morty, and if you watch it, your IQ improves apparently because that's what the internet says. And in that, Rick had a pocket dimension that he built for his daughter that was a perfect world. Falling down, the ground just bounces. The water is breathable and the world isn't a perfect world because there is a way to create a flaw in it that's revealed in the episode, but it's still a better world than this one because you can't get hurt in it. It's only by doing the certain things that the one guy does because he's there too long on his own that causes problems in that world. So it's outside of the box of things that Rick thought would occur, because he doesn't have, as smart as he is, he doesn't have all possible knowledge, so he can't make an all perfect world. Whereas the deity in question supposedly has all perfect knowledge or all knowledge at all. Eve didn't confess. I don't care what Eve did or didn't do. That doesn't really answer the underlying question of why does it matter so much to God? Why make the system be that in the first place? That's really the question. No one cares about plants. No, yes, well, I care about plants. Teach consequences, don't apply the consequences. Again, you don't, it depends what kind of universe you make. I am a rage monster, and if I knew I was religious, I would be out of control if all I had to do is ask God to forgive me. Well, Gary, that's I've seen the flip of that where sometimes theists will say that if they didn't believe in God, they would go out and kill a bunch of people, and I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's just kind of like a "you better not deconvert me" sort of tactic, like how dare you attack my faith? If you keep doing this, I'll turn into this horrible monster. But isn't that, it does say something about that person? It's like, so you're only good because of this belief. Like you're not really good, and that doesn't taste good in my brain. It's like, okay, you have anger problems. I honestly don't think that if Gary was religious, that he would, become this, killing machine, because you still have consequences in life to deal with. So yeah, and plus I know Gary, and he's a pretty good guy. But yeah, so okay, so that was I think I caught up to chat. Did I? I think I did. Let's meow in chat, and yes, I did. Okay, good. Um, okay, let's see. What? Let's go back to the tweets then, maybe. Uh, have an anger management problem? No, I managed to get angry without any problems. Very cute. Uh, yeah, I do have anger management problem myself, and this is something that myself and Gary have talked on a little bit, and I've talked about. Um, but again, you could have a universe where you just don't get angry. So my free will isn't negated. It's just there isn't an angry. That's it. It's just anger doesn't exist. So I can't become something that isn't. Why not? That's one less problem to worry about. So eliminating things that are negative doesn't negate your free will. You can still choose to drink, green soda or purple soda, and neither choice is the wrong choice because you still have free will. See, what this is positing is that one choice is the bad choice. And that choice is what? To not obey God. That's why the story is the way it is, because the message is be obedient to God, and if you don't obey God, this is what happens. This is what happened to humanity by not obeying God. And so it is to get you to be obedient to this idea, to be obedient to the religion. That's not free will anymore. You've given up your free will at that point. In fact, I'd say free will is illusionary anyways if you have the posit of heaven and or hell, because you have then an appeal to a bribe and an appeal to um, uh, an ad ballum, an appeal to the stick. Do bad, get bad thing. Do good, get good thing. Well, actually, it's not really do good or bad. It's do the thing, worship me and love me and believe X thing, and say the right things and do the right rituals, or else. Yeah, anger isn't an issue. It's what you do to express anger. Well, if there wasn't a thing as anger, then it wouldn't even be an issue at all. So, period. So going back to the tweet, I guess, which would be weird because I probably lost a bunch of people when they left because I said to leave if they don't like me addressing chat. So tell the people in the comments, maybe, like, I start talking to chat at this time and then I stop talking to chat at that time. And you might be saying, but Diga Man, you should do that. Find the timestamp when you did that, and you do that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be lazy. You do it. Okay, so here's a good question that Irish Swede asks. If your child doesn't get to heaven, would it still be heaven? No. This is something positive by Dill Honey, is that he knows the sort of mom he had, and that his mom would not be happy to know that her son is in hell. So therefore, either hell doesn't exist, or something of that nature, or heaven doesn't exist, at least not in the way that's constructed by this particular ideas. But yeah, I mean, how is it that you would be fine in eternity knowing that your loved one, significant other, friend, whatever, is in eternity suffering? And I go all the way with that, and I say even one person suffering is too many. That it doesn't matter who it is. There's no need for that because it's not a balanced system. What are they being punished for? What's the point? And I think that hell, because hell was a construct of the church, not something that you can really find in the Bible, although you can extract certain things in it, especially the modern Bible. You can do that now easier than you could before. But I think that this is something that when you get really angry at somebody and your brain goes to that really dark place and you start imagining, okay, I want to hurt them and I want to torture them and I want to, do this and that. And if you really let your, imagination go, you get really dark and really, vile images of, what you would do to this person. But you know that at some point you'd wind up killing them or they'd die from age or something. And so it's like, it's not enough. I want to just keep hurting them over and over again. And so that is why the invention of hell, I think, came about, is because we wanted to pretend that people we don't like continually get hurt forever, because it wasn't enough that we hurt them here in this life. They're going to keep being hurt over and over again. And that's a good thing, yeah. But that's so vengeful. That's not loving. That's not a good thing to want. You shouldn't want to hurt people or torture people. You should want to heal them and help them, not and forgive them. You say, well, even Hitler? Yeah, look, serve time for the people that you hurt. Maybe a decent, and I formulated this idea before, but that the punishment system could be that you experience the negative feelings and physical pain that you caused upon every person, animal, etc., by your actions. That's your punishment. And then once all that is done, then your reward is then you get to also experience all the good feelings and such that you caused other people and creatures. And then when all that's done, that's it. I don't know what happens then. Maybe you just get to exist and decide whether or not you want to keep existing, or something like that. Or maybe that's it. You experience the negative, you experience the positive, and now you got to see what you did in life, and you get to, and maybe the question is asked, do you think you're a good person? And it's like, if you had more bad than good, then probably you wouldn't think you were a good person. But that's more along the lines of Zionist ideas, where there's this teeter-totter, and that if you do too much bad, you go to the bad place. You do enough good, you'll go to the good place. Well, if you got to experience all the stuff that you caused, directly or indirectly, and you have to experience all the bad stuff, then that would be a heaven and a hell. And that would be at least justice to some degree. Because it's like, this is what you did. Now, of course, some of it wouldn't really be that fair because you don't have all the information possible. So you don't necessarily know that you are going to cause that person pain. You might think that doing this is the best thing that you can do, or that saying that thing was a good thing. So is it really then fair to punish you for things that you didn't know? So that's, kind of a question within the question. According to mythology, the God of the Bible creates evil. It's not a product of free will. Yeah, Isaiah 45:7. Yeah, exactly. It says straight up, God creates evil and good. God creates evil for the purpose of building appreciation for goodness and love. What? Why? So the answer to why God makes evil in S.J. Thompson's head is that in order to appreciate goodness and love, even though evil can have the opposite effect. So it doesn't always work. Okay, back to the thing. They're tormenting themselves. I don't care how you frame it. It's still evil to have a place where people are tormented forever. Whether they're doing it to themselves or someone else is doing it, it's irrelevant. It's pure evil to do that. It's not justice. It's not loving. It's not kind. And it is a construct of the church. Hell isn't a thing at all. Not even in the Bible. the closest you get is what, Sheol for the Jews, and that wasn't really even hell. And in Christianity, there's references to lake of fire, but that could be apocryphal sort of imagery. And hell doesn't really get in there until the modern Bible. It's not there in the original text. You'd be hard pressed to find it. And so it's my assertion that the church invented hell because it's a great tool, you know, to have a stick when you already have the carrot of heaven, but now if you have a stick, that's even more cool. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Hitler killed millions of people, right? Yeah, so if he had to experience all those deaths, it would take him time, sure, but it wouldn't be forever. See, the thing is, forever is so long we can't even conceive it. It's infinity. Can't conceive infinity. Not really. I mean, you can kind of do it, but you really can't. It's just like, 10 million years has passed. Well, guess what? You haven't even started on infinity yet. A billion, trillion, quadrillion, Googleplex years have passed. Guess what? You haven't even started infinity yet because it is endless. And so it's like, look, if you felt all the pain that you caused, that's at least justice. That's at least you got what you gave. And what about reforming that person? What about helping them to heal? What about them maybe saying, I was wrong. I realize I was wrong now. That's not an option. And the doctrine of hell is there. Now, it's interesting. The Lutherans had Jesus descend to hell and then go to earth and then to heaven. And the question was brought up one time, why did Jesus go into hell? And I was like, well, maybe to make some provisions there. But where in the Bible does it say Jesus descends into hell? I don't know, but it's part of the Lutheran sort of mantra that we used to say. Is prison evil? Yeah, I think it is. I think that the way that we have American prison certainly is. I think that, let's see, I think it's New Zealand, I want to say, does prison a lot better than we do. It makes more sense the way they do it. If you treat people like animals, then they're going to behave like animals. And all prison is a big giant timeout for adults. It doesn't tell you why what you did was wrong. It doesn't repair the damage that you did. It doesn't fix that person. It doesn't redeem that person. It vilifies that person, and the punishment is simply they don't have freedom now. Okay, but what's the point of that? Well, you feel satisfied because the person isn't free. And there's cases where, somebody is so far gone that, there's nothing we could do for them that would make them a good person, maybe. But we're not exploring the avenue of mental rehabilitation or physical rehabilitation or both. We're not exploring the whole point originally of prison was actually penitentiary. Penance. So to be penitent was to say I was wrong. Here's why I was wrong, and to ask for forgiveness essentially. But it changed from that over time to be punishment, and the punishment doesn't end after prison. It's very difficult for ex-cons to get jobs. Well, then that's more punishment. So it's not just that you're sent to jail; it's also that your whole life is disrupted. And then you're punished more afterwards. So yeah, I would say that prison is pretty evil the way it's constructed right now, and that justice reform and prison reform certainly needs to happen. But that's an earthly mundane problem that we could eventually possibly solve. And if I had the authority to do so, I have certain ideas that I'd certainly put in place, but I don't have that sort of power, But it's kind of a side tangent to what the topic at hand is. What if a person's killing people and will not stop? What do we do with them? Well, again, that obviously, yes, you do isolate that person, but then why are they doing that? Something went wrong in their brain. So we need to look at their brain with neurology and with psychology and see what went wrong. And can we fix it? Can we make it so that they don't do that anymore with drugs or surgery or what have you? And if the answer is no, then it might be that we have to keep them away from society, but we don't have to treat them like an animal. We don't have to have these cages. We can have it be a nice looking place. The prisons in again, I want to say New Zealand, but that might not be it. They look like hotel rooms. They look really nice, and people are treated like humans. So they respond in a far different way, and their return rate is like 1% or something insanely ridiculous. It's just it's a Germany. I don't know. There's let me look it up real fast. Switzerland. Okay, right. So Switzerland's on the top of decent looking prisons or prison cells. And or Norwegian, yeah, Norwegian. So these places have less return rate of people, and so that it's obviously because they're gearing it towards, okay, you did this thing that was wrong. Why did you do that? What led you to do that? We're looking at it that society let you down to some point, that maybe something went wrong in your brain. Maybe your situation was just so insane that you didn't know what to do. You didn't go get the help that you could have. You didn't know about the services that were out there, whatever. But it's a group help that individual look rather than a we need to punish that. So it's a very different philosophy. But again, big tangent to the question at hand. But yeah, I'll go with the data. The data is king. So if you don't want people returning to prison, then you construct the system in a way that lessens it, and so you look at countries that are already doing that, and you go, well, maybe that's a better idea, and it costs less money, so that's good. But see, maybe the prison doesn't make as much money, and of course, there's money to be made in prison, so you can have a private prison and make a good amount of money on it. So that's an incentive to run a prison the way that you want. Okay, let's see. I know that there's other questions that were asked by SJ, not just this one, and I wanted to find it, and now I know there was question one. I know that there was a second question. I saw it. Where is it? Meow, meow, meow. Let's see. I know. Goodness gracious, where is it? I know there was another question besides this one. This is great. This is great. I can't. If I click on this hashtag, that will do it. What? Wait. What's this in comparison to? Let's see. Bleep. I'm trying to find the origin of this tweet. Let's see. Bane. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. Somebody want to... They know what they did was wrong. Not always. Sometimes people don't know what they did is wrong. But regardless, it's just how we treat people and how we view justice. And it's a very deep and difficult philosophy of that sort of thing. And justice and justice reform and prison reform are very complicated things that I'm making seem like, oh, it's simple. We just do what they're doing over there because what they're doing over there works. Well, yeah, but it's not. You can't just snap your fingers and have it change overnight, even if you had, unless you had the power to do that, which apparently God does. But again, off topic. Let's see. I want to find the questions that were asked. Where were the other questions that were asked? By S.J. Thompson. Where's the other questions? Questions that she asked. Bane, I can't find them. This sucks. Q1 is a problem for atheists, and only Christians are not under. What? Okay, wait, what? Oh, okay. So here's an answer. Question 1 is a problem for atheists, and only for Christians who do not understand Genesis 3. The response to the atheist is, if humans are accidental aggressions of inert stardust in a blindless, pitiful, indifferent cosmos, what is evil? To answer, they have to assume God. Oh my word. Well, this is a non sequitur, red herring, circular argument, straw man, and is also shifting the burden of proof and answering a question with a question, which isn't a logical fallacy, but I don't like it. It also requires some special knowledge of that Christians don't understand Genesis 3, so they don't have a Jedi's view, so therefore they're wrong. So that requires a burden of proof that they're not providing here. Granted, Twitter is limited, but still, let's put that chat in the link up. Okay, so no, evil or suffering, depending on how you frame it, suffering certainly exists, whether you want to call it evil or not. And this, again, just completely misses the point of the question. And I don't know if that's deliberate or accidental. But after a while, because this question has been responded to so many times by skeptics and atheists, I start to think that they've got to know better by now. Come on. So the idea is that evil only exists if there's a God. Okay, so you've admitted that there's evil. So why is there evil? Forget about whether there's a... I don't care. That's not relevant to the question. It's, well, why is there evil? It's like, the question isn't, well, it's not... You're not saying, well, why does evil exist if God is good? And that assumes God. The question already assumes God. So to just say, well, you can't be an atheist then because you're admitting to evil. And it's like, yeah, well, whatever, fine. But I'm tentatively granting God in order to ask the question because questions have premises embedded in them, you nitwit. Learn logic. But maybe I wouldn't say the nitwit part. That might be a bit far. Okay. But humans are accidental, as far as how we got here. But that also doesn't negate that we created the concept of evil, and that what we view as evil is usually things that hurt us and hurt others, and there's certainly grounding for evil philosophically and logically and ethically. So good dodge to the question, but you didn't answer it. But you did dodge it, so good. I like the answer. That's ridiculous, even for a Christian. Wow. I've seen it before. So, you know what? I thought that there was more questions. And if you know what, Now, so why is there up? Why is there cold? Why is there anything that has an opposite? I don't know. That's the way the universe is. Um, the why questions, I would go with what more, Richard Freeman gives a really interesting answer to the why question, because the guy asks him why magnets do this thing. It's like, you could keep going. Like, why is this? Why is this? And eventually you get to, I don't know. Eventually, at some point, you have no idea why. And it might be one day that we have all the answers. We're not there yet. But the question I would posit is, let's assume that we had all the answers and said, okay, here's the answer, 42, of course. It's like, okay, great. Well, if you can't ask why anymore because that was the answer, you might have to ask how, or you might have to be satisfied with the answer even though you want more, or you might have to be satisfied with the mystery. And I think that the mystery is very interesting. I want to understand it. I want to know the answers. I want to understand why we exist, or how we exist, or what that even means. I think that those questions will be answered in science. Maybe not today, but eventually, if we survive as a species. And I think that the only way we could do that is to start seeding the solar system and get out of the solar system and see the rest of the cosmos with humanity, because that's the only, we're going to have to build colony ships and have people go out to space knowing that they'll never come back, and generations later hopefully find a planet that they can set up shop on. And who knows if those pioneers will ever make it. So we have to be willing to risk generations of humanity for that quest. But it's the only way that humanity will survive in the long game. For the now, for the immediate now, these questions are philosophical ones to some degree. And I think that they will be answered by science. But until then, it's very compelling to desire an answer, even though there might not be one, or the answer is unknowable today. But I think that looking for those answers is very human. And I think that if you ground that with logic and reason, then your answers will be at least ones that you don't have to be skeptical of. The answer I don't know is far more honest than, well, obviously it's magic. That's what did it. I mean, that's the answer. What magic can explain everything. Yeah, it could. But is that really, even though it fits, that doesn't make it the right answer. People think that they know everything, are ignorant. Yeah, well, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't really know much of anything. So the smarter you become, the more you realize that you don't know half of what you think you know. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know everything. I would love to know everything, but there's only so much stuff that a brain can hold, and I don't even know what that is. So I don't know what the limit is. you know, but yeah, I mean, this is to me, when SJ does these sort of things, from my point of view, the question wasn't really even asked honestly anyways. If God is all loving, why is there evil in the world? If God's all loving and all powerful, why is there suffering in the world? That's really the question that's being posed. The question that she poses is such an easier question to answer, such a watered down question, that I want to just say it's a straw man, because it's not really even the question that's being asked. And it's not just atheists that ask it, by the way. skeptics do as well, and other theology that's out there also asks this question. Other religions exist, other ideas of God exist, and this is the dichotomy that's put up many times by apologists, where they pretend that all the other theists are on their side, and they make it seem like it's a battle between the theist and the atheist. No, it's a battle between your version of theology and all the other versions of theology and the people that don't believe in any of it. That's really the battle. It's not a dichotomy. You have more people against you than you even think about. Last poll I saw was that 33% of the entire planet believes in Christianity. So the rest of the planet is screwed if Christianity is true. But it's even worse than that, because within that 33%, you start asking people how to be saved. And when you find that the Christians can't even agree upon that, you have to wonder who the bleep is going to get saved. Even if they have the right thing, if they're slightly off, they might be screwed. It's a really good system there. Not. Okay. Trying to define God is like trying to tell people how long infinity is. Well, again, that gets into a sort of a different problem of what God is and what makes God a God. Like, what attributes does a thing have to have in order for you to call it a God in the first place? So if I gain the ability to create a world, does that make me a God? Does living forever make me, what is it that I must have to be called a God, and why must I have those attributes instead of some other attributes? So that would be a good question to ask. I don't think SJ will ever ask that question. So any questions for this jaded old skeptic that you guys, gals, and robots might have for me? I'm going to respond to Apollo Jedi with LOL, and then a link to this hangout here. Whatever, man. Okay. Screwed that up. Okay, you didn't even answer the question. Blah. There. Respond. Wow, it's question 10. So there was a lot of questions. I can't find them all. Bane! What good have Christians done for society? For example, aren't they anti-science? Well, some Christians are anti-science, but some other religions are as well. And I'm not really this is not a question that I would ask. So I don't know what atheists would ask this, and this isn't really that tough of a question. Sure, Christians and others have done good. The problem is you would have to show that Christians do good more often than everyone else from any other religion or non-religion in total. So where's your data set for that, SJ? That would be amazing. Let's see that data. That would require a massive, not just polling, you'd have to have tons of data from, okay, here's this and this and this Christian organization. Would you consider Catholics Christian, or would it just be Protestants? I don't know, but go ahead and combine them. I don't care. Let's see what religion is doing the best for society, or good for society. What does good mean? Does that mean limiting freedom of homosexuality? That might be good under your view of Christianity. I don't know. So you'd have to answer those things and say, here's the outliner of what I consider good, and here's who did that. So maybe you do think that outlawing homosexuality is a good thing. And it might be the case that some other religion, Islam, is doing that better than you. But whatever that data set is, present that. You didn't. So you don't have an answer for this question. Nobody has the answer for this question at all. No matter what they respond to, unless they have that data set, they have nothing. Absolutely nothing. And let's look at the responses. No data set. So no answer to this question. It's like the best that you can do as an individual would be to appeal to the minority of one. I have seen this, and this done, or I am personally aware of X, Y, and Z being done by Christian groups, and that's a small, tiny dot of data set that you have. That's nothing. That's not how to collect data. That's not how to prove a point. And let's just say that we showed that Christianity got people to do better than any other system out there. Cool. So that wouldn't tell us that it was true. It would just tell us that it somehow makes people able to do more good than any other system. But none of that's going to be answered or addressed because you have no data set, which means you cannot answer this question. But that would require critical thinking, and we're certainly not going to have that from S.J. Thompson. Deconverting Man got a little bit irritated there. Where's all these other questions? Okay, let's see. Link, what did you say? Yeah, bye. Good night. You can be God of Sims. Well, yeah, you can be a god in Minecraft as well, but the problem is you're still constrained by the rules of the game. So if you make the game, then you are truly God at that point. But even then, you're limited to the abilities of the computer software. So there's still a constraint. And so you would say, well, I can build a bigger and better computer. Sure, but you're then still constrained by the physics of the universe that we live in. So we could be a type of God, but we couldn't ever be the sort of God that's being posited that has the ability to manipulate or change the rules of reality as we know them. Unless one day maybe we'll figure out how to change physics. That would be interesting. GTA games with no cheats, right? Yeah. Well, here's question 6. I can't find the other questions. If anyone can find these questions, please let me know. Because that's what I want to do in this thing. I want to answer all these questions. If God is all-knowing, how can we have free will? In other words, can we do something he doesn't already know? Oh boy, this gets into atemporal time problems. Okay, so to have a reference point, I guess you would look at, say, Back to the Future or something like that. Marty cannot not go back in time because he's always gone back in time. But the Marty that we see go back in time is not the same Marty that Marty sees go back in time when he returns to the future, because the alternate future, that Marty had parents that are different from the Marty that we follow's parents. In fact, he erased those parents from existence and took the place of the Marty in this new timeline. But the question still remains, is his knowledge of what happened, does that make it changeable? Well, he can change it, but only by creating a new timeline. In fact, the very existence of a time machine in the past could be seen as already altering the past if the butterfly effect is true at every level. So the mere fact that you go into time at all changes the past. But that's not really what we're asking. We're saying, okay, if you know what happened, can it ever be unhappened? No, it always must be that way. It can't not be that way because that's the way it was. Well, then where's the room for free choice if you know what you're going to do? So if I know that tomorrow I'm going to hiccup at 5 o'clock, I have no choice but to hiccup at 5 o'clock, and there's nothing I can do to stop it because it's going to happen, and I've seen it happen. It will happen. It must happen. So the only way it cannot happen is that I not see it. Therefore, it didn't happen. So, people come up with all sorts of answers for this one, like God can see multiple realities or multiple choices or whatever. But it doesn't really answer the question at all, because you're so in the abstract and absurd at that point that we don't know what it's like to not be temporal. We're bound to this timeline in a linear fashion from start to end, and that's really what we know. And even in the imagination where we come up with time travel shows and stuff, even Endgame, Avengers, not going to do spoilers, but they make a comment about all the time travel movies. So that's not how time travel works, and the way that they say time travel works still doesn't make any sense. You can't make sense out of it because you don't have the time machine yet. So what would it be like to see the future? Could you ever change it? No, you couldn't, because you wouldn't see it if you changed it. Any changes you made, you would already see. So whatever it is you're seeing happens, because you can't see something that doesn't happen. So, but maybe the universe doesn't care about causality. It might be the case that if you could time travel, that you could kill yourself in the past and it wouldn't matter because reality doesn't care, maybe. But does it negate your free will? Probably, if you even have free will in the first place. I think the better question is free will even a thing in the first place? And the answer, I think, would have to go to neurology to answer that. But, if you're positing a God that knows everything that you will do, then everything that you will do is all things that it knows. So even though you have infinite amount of choices, hypothetically, they're all seen. But the real actual choice that you eventually made is also seen and known by God. So you can't not do that actual choice. So yeah, you don't really have free will. And even if you do, there's places in the Bible where God negates free will anyways. So I don't know that it would really matter. Got to go. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tiger. See you later. Have fun. This is a long one. I'm trying to find the other question. Dang, damn it! Why didn't you do this? Like ask these. Okay, so question 2: why didn't God explicitly outlaw slavery in the Bible? Because it's written by the people that didn't realize that slavery was bad, and not by God, because God didn't write it or have anything to do with it if there's a God. But that's my answer. Let's see what the answer says. Slaves are instructed to obey their masters. The goal was not to change politics of the day, but explain how to respond as Christians in our situation. Okay, that didn't answer the question at all. Why didn't God just say, hey, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. So why didn't God just say, don't do slaves at all? Fuck your politics. You're wrong. I mean, God's perfectly happy to lay down 613, is it 613 laws? 613 laws. I want to say 6. Yeah, I was right. 613. Yes. 613 commandments, but one of them can't be don't have slaves. He's happy to set down all these other rules, but not that one? Really? Let's see if there's any actual answers to this question. Let's see. There's not an answer. I like this answer. If God's real and all powerful, then the politics of the day should have no sway. Yeah. So there wasn't really that many answers for this one. So I guess this question was so tough that it had to be skipped. And the only answer from the theists appears to be that, basically God doesn't have a choice but to, not tell them that slavery is bad. So, okay. Let's see. I know there's more. Come on, give me the healthy face at lead 1225. Let's see if that can do it. I want all the questions. Dang nabbit, it's 7. Why are Jesus' genealogies reported in Matthew and Luke different? Because they don't know how to freaking write their dang genealogies. That's why. They could have fixed it, but it never was fixed. But it doesn't matter anyways because Jesus doesn't have a genealogy. The genealogy is based on Joseph. Joseph has nothing to do with Jesus according to Christian mythology. Joseph didn't contribute his seed at all unless God teleports Joseph's seed into Mary so that she can remain a virgin and then give birth, and then therefore Joseph's line would be relevant because the line is always drawn from the male and never the female because fuck females in the Bible. So unless Mary had a lineage, then it would matter, maybe. But that's not how lineages are done in the Bible. Only the man matters. So Joseph, even though he has nothing to do with Jesus, if Mary's a virgin and if Jesus is immaculate conception, then the lineages don't really matter. They only matter for tradition purposes to establish that Joseph has a connection with whoever in the past, and therefore that means something, even though he didn't contribute any DNA to Jesus. So I don't really care about the answer to this question. I wouldn't ask this question. I would ask where the DNA came from for Jesus to be born. That's a way harder question to answer. But why are they different? Because, the Bible gets screwed up. There you go. There's the answer to that one. But let's see if anyone actually answers this in any other way than my jaded way. Let's see. Okay, the answer is that without them being filled by the Spirit of the Lord, they can't know the things of the Spirit nor understand. So the answer is we don't know. But unless you have God, you can't know anyway. So it doesn't really matter. That's the answer there. Here's a different answer. To establish fulfillment of prophecy that said the Messiah would come from the line of Abraham and David. But yeah, but the problem is that might have not even been a prophecy, one. And two, how is it relevant that Joseph has these people in his past when Joseph has nothing to do with Jesus other than being married to Mary? Luke gives details about Mary. So the answer is that one of these lines is for Joseph, the other is for Mary. Well, that's interesting because they didn't care about the women enough to have their genealogies drawn up. So that's just anti-history, I guess. But even if that was true, okay, so Joseph and Mary have a lineage going back however far. Okay, why do we need... There was no clarification in the Bible that that's the case. One, so I don't know where you're getting this idea from. And secondly, again, why the hell would we care about Joseph since he has nothing to do with Jesus? Would you look at your kid in the eye and tell them that heaven will be no less paradise and perfect for you, even if they're burning in hell? I want to ask the really hard questions. You're throwing softballs. Heaven wouldn't be heaven if God forces his inhabitants to be there. That didn't answer the question, SJ, but okay, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and ask my question and response. Why care what Joseph... I don't know how to spell his name. Why... you know what? Fuck it. I don't care what slavery is supposed to be in the Bible. The question is, why would God not just tell people don't do it? I mean, that just seems to be the easiest. Look, it's bad. Don't do that. Do something else. Just, how hard is that? Just tell people what's a good idea and a bad idea to do. Did God pick Trump for president? I don't know. Maybe. Why not? Maybe God was like, well, I know what Hillary has done. So it can't be her. Saint Ramen? Oh my god, I haven't seen you forever. Where the bleep have you been? Hey D, hey Saint Ramen. Wait a minute, Saint Ramen? Strawman? Good to see you here. Okay. Joseph. Can't spell Joseph. Oh, goodness. Bleep. There we go. Thanks, Google. You know how to spell. I was like, what Joseph line is. To the birth of Jesus. Also, where did the DNA for Jesus come from? I mean, you only have half. So, how does that work? Also, I'd ask about Mary's free will. Did she have the free will to say no to God's request that she bear the child? Did Mary have a choice in giving birth to? And did she enjoy it? Yeah, I've made that joke, but it's a great joke. Yeah, Mary during sex with the divine is the only time when saying "Oh God" during sex was actually correct. Okay, there's that question answered. Where's the other ones? Hey, she did. She said question 3. Well, it vanished. What the bleep? That's weird. Oh no, go back. Okay, will heaven still be heaven and my kids don't find me there? No, it wouldn't be. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's not just, it's anyone that you care about isn't there. How can you possibly be happy? How could you, driving a truck, becoming a grandpa, been binging on skeptic videos, seeing if you could. Yeah, Saint Roman, we need you, man. We need stuff. We need you to make things and stuff and whatever. Do your kids care about you? I don't know. I hope so. Yes, God will wipe away every tear from your eye, so your free will is negated. I believe He will cause us to remember no more suffering and failings in this world, including those who have fallen away. So your memories get erased. Wow, that's great. You don't even know that you had kids. Wow. So what was the point? What's the point of them suffering that you don't? Wow, that's messed up. I think God loves us more than ever than we love each other. So it's His job what happens to others after death. My job is to fill my duties as a parent. Okay, that didn't answer the question there. Normally, please. So how about you answer the question? I hate these non-answers. According to the Pope, as long as they're good and follow the golden rule, everybody will go to heaven. Okay, well, I don't know about that, but whatever. Yes, you'll find your completeness in God and Jesus, not those you loved on earth. Yeah, so, I mean, so God's love is so immense that you won't miss anyone else. You won't need anyone else. I don't know. That just sounds creepy to me. But how would your joy be complete if you still had free will? So the love is so great that it overwhelms your senses of loss, and thus you don't have free will. So this whole thing, it just negates the other things that were also questions. This is why there's so much conflict in Christianity. You can't answer these questions without causing other questions to then get negated, and you can't answer the questions without causing more questions. Well, okay, so this person didn't give an answer. Yes, heaven is heaven, so we can see loved ones. But heaven is heaven for those who seek. Okay, so you get to see your kids in hell, I guess. You get to watch them being tortured and suffering, or whatever hell is. Which, of course, hell is a construct anyway. So, doesn't. I guess you would see no one since they wouldn't exist. I don't know. Hell was created for the devil, demons, and his dragons. People who are sent to hell choose to go to hell. You have a choice tonight. Don't wait, or else you'll find your my ass dragon right there alongside of that. Revelation 20:10 through 15. Revelation's about King Nero! So, also didn't answer the question there, Delology. That you didn't. Oh, there. Thank you, somebody. You didn't even. And my ass dragon. You didn't even answer the question. God's word answered it for me. It didn't answer my question either. That's because unbelief never has enough answers to satisfy their doubt. But these have been. Oh my God. So this guy has no answer. I did answer your question, but you're not satisfied with it. Hell was created for wicked people. God isn't going to send unwilling people to hell, only the willing. The question you have to ask yourself tonight before going to bed is, are you willing or unwilling? I don't want to go to hell, but I don't want to go to heaven either. So, at least not the heaven that you think exists, where this God of yours exists. If it's a different heaven, great. I actually have no choice in the matter. Whatever happens to be the case, whatever reality is, I have no say in that. But I don't actually have a choice at all to decide to be with God or not, because I don't even know that God is a thing in the first place. So God is not giving me an actual choice to make. It's not like, here's two doors. This one is bad. This one is good. I don't even see the doors. That's the problem. So it's not a choice. And threatening me is an ad ballum. So your God is illogical. Why would I worship an illogical God? Let's see. Satan. The question I'm going to ask is, will I get to sleep tonight? Yeah. You'll if you don't pick the right correct religion, you'll be sorry. Look, I have a dragon, and if you don't believe that I have a dragon, the dragon's going to eat you. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, some point in time. So, do you believe me that I have the dragon? Yes or no? Oh, burden of proof? What's that? My brain is done. Okay, I know there's more questions to go over in this. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2. But my brain is just broken down, and it's all S.J. Thompson's fault. I dare say that S.J. has just basically wiped out logic. It's like he's destroyed half of logic and reason. That must be what he set out to do in the first place. Some people have moved on, but not me. I've got to do something about this. I've got to assemble a team and respond to this insanity. I must stand tall and avenge logic. Stay tuned. Did I see your question about John Smith? No, I did not. What's your question, Saint Roman? Can you put it again? Because I'm not seeing it. Put it again. I was going to end on my epic trailer hint, but no, I have to answer more questions. And let's post the link to the Hangout in there because I get to self-advertise. But and I went quiet there. Asked for an update. I don't know Saint Ramen. Last I talked to him was on Facebook, and he was able to talk a bit. He'd had a stroke, and he was slowly recovering some ability to speak. I honestly did not know how to talk to him or interact with him or what to say or ask or whatever. And I don't know. I it seemed like he was getting the help that he needed, but it also seemed that it was possible that he doesn't have as much support as he could have. So I don't know what to do with any of that. And that was a long time ago. He's still on Facebook, as far as I know. I quit Facebook. I had enough of Facebook, so I don't have any way to contact him. But if you message him on Facebook, he'll probably answer. Last I knew, he was having trouble typing. So, but yeah, he's still on Facebook, as far as I know, and he's still on the Mortal Coil, as far as I know. But I don't know. It's been however long. It's been some years since my last update about him. Let me go to my YouTube to see when I last spoke about him, so I can. Let's see. That was September 2018 that I last updated about John Smith. So yeah, that was the last I knew anything about that situation. And like I said, I really I've never dealt with somebody that's had a stroke, so I just kept feeling so bad, trying to ask him, like, well, what's it like to have a stroke? Like I was like trying to ask these sort of scientific questions, but also I couldn't because my emotions, and I just like felt so bad that this happened to him and not know, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say or not say or how to handle this or think about it or feel about it. And I think that that's probably pretty common with people that have, gotten into whatever that it's just easier emotionally not to deal with them, which is wrong. And I feel, awful that I talked to him a little bit, chat here and there, but again, I don't know, it's like, I don't know what to say. So, but yeah, he's still on Facebook as far as I know. It sucks. He is one of the greats. I do miss him, and but yeah, if you're on Facebook, you could probably add him and talk to him there. I'm off of Facebook, so I can't give you any links or anything. My account, as far as I know, is gone. So, and I'm not going back. I hate Facebook. Twitter, I'm thinking about quitting, but I'm kind of having fun on Twitter. But yeah, so yeah, it was John Smith. was his name. And I don't know if, let's see if, let me see, hold on. Yeah, I just had his YouTube channel on my video. I don't know if his YouTube has his Facebook info. It might. Let's find out. Let's go to About. Let's see. Links, Twitter, Facebook. There we go. So, yeah, here you go. There's his Facebook, St. Roman. So, there you go. And seems to still be there, as far as being on Facebook. I'm not signing in because if I sign in, it will reactivate my account, and I don't want to be on Facebook. I'm sick of Facebook. So, but yeah, there it is, and check it out, and there you go. Click on it and join his Facebook and all that. All right. I think that's it. My brain, like I said, is toast. I blame SJ for this. Now I'll end with my epic hint at what might be coming eventually at some point, which is something about SJ destroying all logic and reason, and if only I can form a team to do something about this. And then epic music would play here, which I need to find that version. Ooh, I got a question on a video. I'll read that and then I'll quit this talk. Would you say moral evil is a necessary possibility or of our freedom to choose to do right or wrong? No, I would not say. Well, it depends on what the system is. If freedom is taken away, that you have no choice. Love is desiring the good for another, yet allowing them at the same time to make choices for themselves to choose good or evil. Those in heaven choose good above all else. Blah blah blah. Blah. It's almost like this person's asking about everything I was talking about in this thing. Maybe I should send them this hangout as the answer to that question. Logic can't be destroyed. I hope so. I hope that's true. I don't know. Okay, guys, gals, robots, etc. Thanks for listening. St. Ramen, great to see you again. If you're on Twitter, please Twitter at me or just email me. My email is deconvertedman1@gmail.com. So we can do a thing if you want to do a thing. I have a project that you could be part of if you wanted to. And that's it. Thanks, everybody, for listening to me complain about S.J. Thompson again. So, time to do the thing where I put Finn in here. And then also, if you want to talk to me on my channel, email me and we'll set up a time and day to do that and figure out what the bleep we're going to talk about. And then I'll be lazy and I might forget, but I might not. I don't know. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever you want to do. I don't know anymore. And lobsters exist. So that's all I got. Finn, bye. I'm hitting the button now. Here's the button. Where's the button? There's the button. Hit that button.